Today's liturgy lesson is about the second reading. Remember when we only had two readings at Mass, the epistle and the gospel? The word epistle means letter, and it referred to the letters that a leader in the early Christian church wrote to various communities. Most of these were written, of course, by St. Paul, but there were also letters from Peter and James and John and Jude, and one, the letter to the Hebrews, was written by an anonymous writer. These epistles and two other New Testament books are now used as the second readings at Mass. The other two books are the Acts of the Apostles and the book of Revelation. Imagine, if you can, what it was like to be in the early church at some town that Paul visited. Paul had formed that community. He was an inspiring preacher and a great leader. And now he's gone. He's off to another town to preach, or maybe he's in prison in Rome. Perhaps the community feels left alone and begins to drift. Paul is concerned that someone in their midst is teaching them false doctrine. So he writes to encourage them and to provide sound doctrine. These letters became so important to the various communities that selections of them began to be read every Sunday. We know that these letters were read in the churches of the early Christian communities because in the last verses of the letter to the Colossians, Paul says, "After this letter has been read to you, have it read in the assembly at Laodicea." Now we hear this same letter and the other letters read 2,000 years later. It takes us back to the first century, to our roots as Christians, and we too will hear the same exhortation and teaching about our faith. Our next lesson will be about the gospel acclamation.